fled your perpetrator during COVID lockdown. Tell me a little bit about what that was like for you.
I was really lucky at the point of when I left. I had an amazing support network around me. Selfishly, I only had to think about myself, and when I was ready, I upped and left. With regards to services available, the minute I left, I was just left to fend for myself and pick up my life from where I had just had to start again.
What services did you attempt to access for help?
So, at the point of when I left, I required police assistance. They helped slightly on the day of me leaving, but once they knew I was away from there, that was it. I had a name, a badge number, and that was it. I tried to reach out to speak to said police officer. Was it impossible to get hold of them? I felt very unsafe, so I tried to kind of go down the route of a restraining order or a non-molestation order, which I had to research myself, and was told, oh, because you're in a job, you can pay for it. I wasn't entitled to anything.
Can you tell me a little bit about the types of abuse that you were subjected to during the relationship?
So it very much started emotional abuse. He would make me feel bad about things I was doing, people I was seeing. We very quickly moved in together. At that point, I was head over heels, completely blind to it all. And I thought, oh wow, like someone's bringing me into their home, they must really love me. And that's when I'd say the financial abuse really started to take effect. I was being relied upon for money an awful lot more than he was. And this escalated quite dramatically during the COVID lockdown in early 2020, and my wages alone were what was keeping us afloat, if you like. That was the trickiest one to overcome, because obviously you can't just, there's not much help for debt and for things like that. I'm still paying that debt now, but that is a price I was willing to pay at the time for leaving with my life. Physically, there was quite a few instances, but that certainly ramped up again during the COVID lockdown. He wasn't able to work, I was working, and those frustrations, I guess, were taken out on me.
You say that being left with the debt as a result of the economic and financial abuse that you experienced was a price worth paying for your freedom. Talk to me a little bit about what that was like for you to go through emotionally.
Still to this day, it can leave me with sleepless nights. Nobody wants money worries, but certainly I would have those issues over, obviously, no longer being around. I think that was what it would have led to. So walking away with debt was what I had to do. It's had a massive impact on my mental health, but three and a half years down the line, I finally have a plan in place to get that debt under control, and I can, once that's clear, that's going to be my final door to close on that past.
When you look back, do you see where the financial and economic abuse started?
Yeah, it was definitely when I moved in with him. I think everything ramped up at that point, but it was almost like, oh well, you're living under my roof, you'll do as I say, you'll give me this amount of money, you will pay this. But when it came to kind of spending cash on myself, that wasn't allowed. He could go out, buy designer coats, jumpers, things that he really didn't need, but all my money had to go to him. There was no choice in the matter.
How did that make you feel, knowing that he was using your money and you had very little access to it?
It really angered me. It would be the cause of a lot of our arguments. Certainly earlier on, whilst I was still had that slight independence, I guess, I would always question, well, why can't I go and get a haircut? But you can go and buy a £400 coat that you do not need. It really angered and frustrated me. But in the end, you go along with it.
Were there any violent incidences that arose as a result of your resistance to his financial abuse?
Yeah. It would always start in like verbal arguments. They would get very heated. He would take his anger out on things first of all, smashing up the kitchen, punching picture frames, things like that, to the point where he would then pin me against the wall by my neck, shouting in my face. And then obviously once that's happening, you have no choice but to back down.
In those moments when you backed down, did that feel demoralising for you?
Completely. I felt worthless. I didn't feel like a human being. He would make me feel this small. And you would just believe what he was saying. When it's drummed into you for so long, you think, okay, maybe I'm not worth a haircut. He's clearly worthy of getting this coat, but I'm not worthy of a haircut or whatever it was I was trying to treat myself to. And I think over time, you then just have no self-worth.
He was dehumanising you.
Absolutely.
Is that how you felt?
100%, yeah. He took away any independence that I had. It was then really difficult to kind of stand my ground anymore, because once you start to believe it yourself, you don't know what you're fighting for anymore, so you just give in.
What does independence mean for you, and what did that look like when he was taking it away?
So before and now, independence to me is going out when I want, doing what I want, buy what I want, see who I want, eat what I want. With him, he had control over everything, who I saw, when I saw them, where I'd go, what job I was allowed. He would always tell me that I need a big girl job, and would push me in the direction of getting a different job, which in his eyes was just for a higher wage, which he could then spend on what he would like.
Sounds like the language he was using was really belittling.
Yeah, completely. Almost like he wasn't speaking to another human. Completely lack of zero respect there. He had no respect for me whatsoever.
Are there any other forms of name calling that he would do?
Yeah, certainly like physical appearance, fat, slag. He would comment on what I was wearing all the time. he would sometimes, obviously, would stop me going out if I was wearing a certain outfit. He would make me go and change. I wasn't allowed out until I changed into something in his eyes that was more acceptable. But yeah, there was control over everything. And they certainly started off very small, where to start with I would think, oh, he's just really caring. He cares about what I'm looking like when I go out. And then obviously over time, since I've left, I realised that actually he's completely and utterly just taken over. I couldn't think for myself.
Domestic abuse is an act of terror on someone's freedom, and actually I'm really feeling like from you, as
Yeah.
you're explaining it, that he really did terrorise your autonomy.
Completely. When I left, I didn't know how I was going to get up the next day. He had completely changed me. The time that I was with him, I wasn't like how I was before. I had completely lost all independence. Even things like spending money afterwards once I'd left, it was almost like I would then question myself because he wasn't questioning me. Kind of saying to myself, well, is this okay that I'm spending this money? Asking the questions that he would have. But yeah, it was, he completely destroyed who I was.
A lot of long-term effects, even after leaving.
Yeah, I still, 3.5 years now, after being free, I'm still living with the flashbacks, the triggers. They can be so minor to someone, but to me that can ruin my whole day. I've since started to seek kind of help to try and heal, and have since been diagnosed with complex PTSD, which in itself was quite difficult to accept. I think the whole time that I have been free from him up until the last year or so, I've just been putting a plaster on it and putting it to the back of my mind. Whereas now I realise that the cause needs dealing with, and I need that professional help that is out there, but unfortunately it's just not readily available.
What barriers do you face when accessing mental health services?
Mainly financial. If you've got money to pay for therapy and things, you can get it quite easily. But if you're kind of going through the NHS or other services, there is certainly an extremely long waiting list, which is not uncommon, certainly since COVID and lockdowns, things like that. But when you're almost at breaking point, you need like an immediate service, and it's just not available.
And what do you feel would be beneficial to you to be readily available to you?
So, some sort of talking therapy. For so long now, I've kept my story secret and hid it. But I figured that actually that's not benefiting anyone but my perpetrator. Certainly not benefiting me in any way. So, speaking to somebody about it, somebody that knows to ask the right questions, somebody that can help unlearn those kind of responses, things like that. It's just is invaluable.
You mentioned that you haven't spoken about your story up until now because you felt like a sense a need to protect him.
Yeah, a very select few people very close to me obviously know what I've been through. There are certain things I won't share, purely because it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, and I wouldn't want my immediate family perhaps knowing to the extent of what I went through. It's a lot for me to deal with, but telling my story now, I'm not hiding what happened to me. I realise now that speaking openly about it is going to raise awareness, and if that can save one woman or one girl, then I've helped in some way.